Liar. The word cut through the mahogany-paneled courtroom like a blade through silk. Cold, clinical, designed to destroy. Rebecca's fingers gripped the worn fabric of her second-hand blazer, the one she'd bought at Goodwill on Aurora Avenue 3 days before, spending money meant for groceries. The judge's bench loomed 15 feet above where she sat, dark wood and darker judgment. Her ex-husband, Jonathan Ridgemont, stood at the plaintiff's table in a suit that cost more than her monthly rent in Ballard. Tom Ford, tailored, the kind of perfect that only old Seattle money could buy. 47 people in that King County Superior courtroom, 47 witnesses to her erasure. His lawyer, platinum cufflinks catching the February light through rain-streaked windows, held up a photograph. Rebecca couldn't see it from where she sat, but she knew. She knew what they were about to say, what they were about to make her into. "Your Honor, the evidence will show that Miss Chen is not fit." Rebecca's throat closed. The radiator hissed in the corner. Someone in the gallery coughed. Her daughter Lily's social worker made a note on her clipboard, face carefully neutral. But what Jonathan Ridgemont didn't know, what his $1,000 an hour attorney didn't know, was that someone else was sitting in that back courtroom, someone who had seen everything, someone who had been waiting for exactly this moment. The question isn't whether the truth would come out. The question is whether it would come out in time. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My friend said I wouldn't even reach 10,000 subscribers, but I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show him that these tales matter. Please subscribe to Twisted Fate, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue. Also, before we watch this mother's world collapse and rebuild, I need to know, what city are you watching from? Now, back to the courtroom where everything hung in the balance. Rebecca had been awake since 4:17 a.m. She knew the exact time because she'd been staring at the digital clock in her studio apartment, the one off 85th Street, where the buses started running at 4:30, and the walls were thin enough to hear her neighbor's television through the night. The radiator knocked, always knocked, a rhythm she'd learned to sleep through, except on nights when she couldn't sleep at all. This was one of those nights. The coffee maker was from Goodwill, too. It sputtered and hissed, producing something that tasted like rust and desperation. She drank it black, had been drinking it black for 7 months, since the divorce papers were filed, since Jonathan's lawyers had started their campaign to prove she was unstable, unfit, dangerous. The mirror in her bathroom, cracked in the upper right corner from when she'd moved in, the landlord promising to fix it but never did, showed a woman who looked older than 34. The blazer hung wrong, too big in the shoulders, but it was professional. It had to be professional. Jonathan's team would photograph her. They always did. Every court appearance documented, filed, used as evidence of something. Poverty masquerading as neglect. Exhaustion presented as instability. 3 days before the hearing, Rebecca had been working the closing shift at the Bartell Drugs on 15th Avenue. Her feet ached, the kind of deep bone ache that comes from 8 hours on linoleum floors. A woman had come in at 9:47 p.m., 11 minutes before closing, needing emergency cold medicine for her kid. Rebecca had stayed late, helped her find the right dosage, showed her the generic brand that worked just as well and cost half as much. "Thank you," the woman had said, and something in her voice cracked. "You probably saved me $20. That's my daughter's lunch money for the week." Rebecca had smiled. She understood. She'd been counting quarters for Lily's school lunch too, back when Lily had lived with her. back before Jonathan's lawyers had convinced a judge that the apartment was too small, that Rebecca's work schedule was too unpredictable, that a child deserved stability. Stability. The word tasted like metal in her mouth. Jonathan lived in a house on Capitol Hill, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, a yard, a nanny, a lawyer who went to Harvard with the judge's son, a narrative of concern, "I'm just worried about our daughter's well-being," delivered with the kind of rehearsed sincerity that money could buy. The day before everything changed, Rebecca had gotten the call. Jonathan was filing for full custody, not joint, not primary, full, as in she would become a visitor in her own daughter's life, 2 weekends a month, supervised if the court deemed her worthy. She had stood in the cereal aisle of the QFC on Market Street, phone pressed to her ear, and felt her knees buckle. A stockboy had asked if she was okay. She'd nodded, unable to speak, and bought a box of Cheerios she couldn't afford because standing there empty-handed felt like admitting defeat. Lily was 6 years old, 6. She had Rebecca's eyes and her grandmother's stubborn chin. She liked dinosaurs and refused to wear anything that wasn't purple. She had nightmares about monsters under the bed, and only Rebecca knew the exact way to check, flashlight first, then the stuffed elephant named Peanut to stand guard. Jonathan didn't know about Peanut. He knew about the private school he could afford and Rebecca couldn't, the swim lessons, the violin teacher, the bedroom decorated in colors chosen by an interior designer. He knew how to perform fatherhood in a way that photographed well. Rebecca knew how to make grilled cheese at midnight when Lily couldn't sleep, how to sing the made-up song about the brave little girl who wasn't afraid of anything, how to turn a cardboard box into a spaceship that could fly to Jupiter. But cardboard spaceships don't hold up in court. The morning of the hearing, Rebecca had taken the 5:47 a.m. bus from Ballard to downtown Seattle. The city was still dark, streets slick with February rain that never quite stopped. She'd watched her reflection in the bus window, ghost-faced, hollow-eyed, and wondered if this was what disappearing looked like. She'd arrived at the King County Courthouse 45 minutes early, sat on a bench outside Courtroom 3B, pressed her palms together to stop them from shaking. A janitor had mopped past her twice, the smell of industrial cleaner mixing with the scent of old wood and older judgments. Jonathan had arrived at 8:52 a.m., 8 minutes before the hearing. He hadn't arrived alone. His lawyer, Patrick Westfield, 50-something, silver-haired, the kind of man who commanded rooms by simply entering them, carried a leather briefcase that probably cost more than Rebecca's car. Behind them, a woman in her 20s, blonde and efficient-looking, carrying a tablet. His paralegal, Rebecca assumed. Jonathan had looked at her once, just once, not with anger, with something worse. Pity, as if she were a problem to be solved, a complication in an otherwise well-ordered life. He'd straightened his tie, silk, navy blue, perfect Windsor knot, and walked into the courtroom like he already knew the ending. Maybe he did. The judge, Honorable Patricia Reeves, had a reputation, fair but no nonsense. She'd presided over family court for 17 years. She'd seen every manipulation, every sob story, every desperate parent trying to weaponize the system. She was by all accounts immune to performance. Rebecca hoped that was true. She hoped truth mattered more than money. She hoped wrong.
The courtroom smelled like furniture polish and fear. Jonathan's lawyer stood, and the air pressure seemed to change. Patrick Westfield didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. He spoke the way men with generational wealth speak, assuming that every word would be believed simply because it came from him. "Your Honor, this case is about a child's safety." He pressed a button, and the screen behind him lit up. Photographs, Rebecca's apartment building, the chipped paint on the front door, the narrow stairwell with the flickering light on the second-floor landing, The studio apartment itself, photographed through the window somehow. Legally, probably. Everything was legal when you could afford the right kind of lawyer. Miss Chen lives in a 380-square-foot apartment in a neighborhood with one of the highest crime rates in North Seattle. He said her name like it was evidence of something. She works rotating shifts at a pharmacy, leaving our client's daughter with inadequate supervision. She has been late on rent twice in the past 4 months. Rebecca's lawyer, a public defender named Sarah Ortiz, who was handling 3 other cases that same morning, started to object, but Westfield kept going. We have documentation of Miss Chen's erratic work schedule. We have testimony from the child's teacher noting that Lily arrived to school in unwashed clothing on multiple occasions. We have evidence of unpaid medical bills, suggesting financial instability that directly impacts the child's well-being. The photographs kept coming. Lily in a t-shirt that was slightly too small. Lily's lunch, a peanut butter sandwich and an apple, photographed like it was an indictment. Lily's drawing from art class, crayon stick figures labeled "Me and Mommy in Our Little House." Our Little House. Westfield let that image hang on the screen. The child has internalized her mother's poverty as something to be proud of, Your Honor. This is a form of psychological harm. 47 people in that courtroom. Some of them nodded. The social worker made another note. Judge Reeves's expression remained neutral, but Rebecca saw it. The slight tightening around her eyes, the way she looked at the photographs, then at Rebecca, then at Jonathan in his perfect suit. The math was being done, the decision forming. Furthermore, Westfield continued, and his voice dropped into something that sounded like concern, but moved like a blade. We have evidence that Miss Chen has been struggling with severe anxiety. She has missed work on multiple occasions. She has been seen by neighbors in states of emotional distress. While we sympathize with her challenges, the question before this court is not whether Miss Chen is a person worthy of compassion. The question is whether Lily Ridgemont is safe in her care. Severe anxiety. Rebecca's hands were shaking now. She pressed them flat against her thighs, but it didn't help. She'd had 3 panic attacks in the past 2 months, one in the Bartell stockroom, one on the bus, one in her apartment at 2 a.m., unable to breathe, convinced she was dying, except she wasn't dying, she was just losing her daughter, which felt like the same thing. We have a statement here, Westfield said, pulling out a document with a theatrical flourish, from the child's pediatrician noting that Lily missed her 6-month checkup. We have documentation of a cavity that went untreated for 3 months. We have, she had the cavity treated, Sarah Ortiz interrupted, standing. Her voice was sharp, tired, the voice of someone who fought these battles daily and lost most of them. My client took her daughter to a sliding-scale dental clinic and paid out of pocket. 3 months late, Your Honor. The judge held up one hand. I've read the filings, counselor. But the damage was done. Rebecca could feel it. The way the room had shifted, the gallery behind her, filled with people she didn't know, observers, law students maybe, people who came to watch families get dismantled the way others watched sports, was silent in the way that meant judgment had already been passed. Jonathan sat at his table, hands folded, face arranged in an expression of pained responsibility. He looked like a father doing the hard thing, the necessary thing. He looked believable. Westfield pulled up another photograph. This one hit different. It was Rebecca, taken from a distance, outside the QFC on Market Street. She was leaning against her car, a 2004 Honda Civic with a dented bumper and an inspection sticker 2 months expired. Her face was in her hands. Her shoulders were shaking. This photograph was taken 4 weeks ago, in a public parking lot, in front of the child. Rebecca remembered that day. Lily wanted a toy, some plastic dinosaur that cost $8.99. Rebecca said no, and Lily cried, and Rebecca held it together until they got to the car. Then she broke. 30 seconds, maybe less, just long enough to feel the weight of every failure pressing down.
30 seconds, photographed, filed as evidence, transformed into proof of instability. "Your Honor," Westfield said, and his voice carried the gravity of conclusion, "my client is not asking this court to punish Miss Chen. He is asking for the protection of his daughter. He has the means to provide stability, education, health care, and emotional security. He has a home. He has resources. He has time." Time. The word echoed. Rebecca worked 52 hours a week. Jonathan worked from home, his tech job allowing flexible hours, the kind of flexibility that only comes with stock options and a trust fund. "We are requesting full physical custody with supervised visitation for Ms. Chen pending completion of a psychological evaluation and a parenting course." The room tilted. Supervised visitation, as if she were dangerous, as if loving her daughter with every cell in her body wasn't enough, as if struggling meant failing. Judge Reeves looked at Rebecca. "Miss Chen, do you have anything to say?" Rebecca stood. Her legs felt like water. Sarah Ortiz touched her arm, a warning maybe, or solidarity. Rebecca's voice came out smaller than she wanted. "I love my daughter." 4 words, the only ones that mattered. "I have always put her first. I work hard. Her voice cracked. "I'm trying my best." It sounded weak even to her own ears. Trying wasn't succeeding. Hard wasn't enough. The best she could do wasn't matching what Jonathan could offer with a single credit card swipe. Judge Reeves nodded slowly. "I'm sure you are, Miss Chen." But the tone said everything. "Sure you are" wasn't the same as "it's enough." Westfield sat down, and the air in the room settled into something that felt like verdict. Rebecca's heart was a drum. Lily's social worker was flipping through her notes. The court reporter's fingers moved across the keys, recording the dissolution of Rebecca's world at 140 words per minute. And then, the heavy courtroom door opened. Not dramatically, not like in movies, just the soft pneumatic hiss of old hinges and the quiet click of heels on marble. A woman entered, late 50s, gray hair pulled back, wearing a sweater Rebecca recognized, soft blue cardigan, slightly pilled at the elbows. She carried a purse and a manila folder. Jonathan's face did something Rebecca had never seen before. It lost color, not slowly, instantly, like someone had drained his blood. Patrick Westfield turned, saw the woman, and his hand, mid-reach for another document, froze. Judge Reeves looked up. "Can I help you?" The woman walked forward with the kind of steady calm that comes from knowing exactly what you're about to do. She looked at Jonathan, then at Rebecca, then at the judge. "Your Honor, my name is Dorothy Brennan. I was Mr. Ridgemont's live-in nanny for the past 7 months. Was. Past tense. I have some things this court needs to hear."
If you're still here with me and yet to subscribe, kindly hit that subscribe button, because what Dorothy Brennan is about to say changes everything. Judge Reeves set down her pen. "Miss Brennan, this is highly irregular. If you have testimony—" "I have documentation, Your Honor." Dorothy held up the manila folder. "And I have a recording." Jonathan stood up, fast, too fast. "Your Honor, this woman was dismissed from my employment for theft." "I quit," Dorothy interrupted, her voice cutting clean through his, 2 days ago, after I found the cameras. The courtroom went still. "What cameras?" Judge Reeves asked. Dorothy opened the folder, pulled out a stack of photographs, handed them to the bailiff, who brought them to the judge. "Mr. Ridgemont installed hidden cameras throughout his home, in the nanny's quarters, in the bathroom, in the child's bedroom." The judge's expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened on the photographs. "I discovered them when I was packing my things, small, the size of USB chargers, in the outlet by the shower, in the smoke detector above Lily's bed, in the bookshelf in my room." Patrick Westfield was standing now, too. "Your Honor, this is a gross mischaracterization. Security cameras are perfectly legal." "In a nanny's private bathroom?"
Dorothy's voice was polite ice. "Recording her undressing? I don't think so, counselor." Jonathan's hand went to his tie, adjusted it. The gesture was unconscious, nervous. "But the cameras aren't why I'm here," Dorothy said, and now she looked directly at Rebecca. Something in her eyes, apology maybe, solidarity. "I'm here because of what I witnessed in that house, what was done to that little girl when her mother wasn't there to see it." Rebecca felt her lungs expand for the first time in 20 minutes. Judge Reeves leaned forward. "Go on." Dorothy reached into her purse, pulled out her phone. "I recorded a conversation, Your Honor, from 3 weeks ago. I believe Washington is a two-party consent state, but I also believe there's an exception for recording evidence of child abuse." The word abuse hit the courtroom like a detonation. "That's a lie," Jonathan said, and his voice finally cracked. "Your Honor, this woman—" "Mr. Ridgemont, sit down." Judge Reeves's voice was steel. She looked at Dorothy. "Play it." Dorothy connected her phone to the courtroom speaker system. Her hands didn't shake. The recording was tinny but clear. A man's voice, Jonathan's, angry. "I don't care if she misses her mother. You need to deal with it." Dorothy's voice, cautious. "Sir, she's been crying for 2 hours. Maybe we could call—" "I'm not calling Rebecca so she can swoop in and play hero. Lily needs to learn that her mother is unreliable. She needs to understand that this is her home now." A child's voice in the background, muffled by tears. "I want Mommy." "Well, Mommy doesn't have time for you." Jonathan's voice was cruel now, stripped of the courtroom performance. "Mommy's too busy working at her little pharmacy job to care about you." Rebecca's vision blurred. Dorothy's recorded voice. "Mr. Ridgemont, that's not appropriate. I pay you to watch her, not parent her. If she doesn't stop crying in the next 10 minutes, put her in her room and close the door. She'll learn." The recording ended. The silence in courtroom 3B was absolute. Judge Reeves looked at Jonathan. "Is that your voice, Mr. Ridgemont?" Jonathan's lawyer was whispering urgently in his ear. Jonathan's face was red now. "Your Honor, taken out of context, yes or no?" "It was a difficult day. I was frustrated. Yes or no?" "Yes." Dorothy wasn't finished. She pulled out another document. "I also have text messages, screenshots, times when Mr. Ridgemont would deliberately schedule activities during Miss Chen's visitation hours, then blame Lily for choosing not to see her mother. I have photos of Lily's bedroom door. There's a lock on the outside. I have a list of meals that child has eaten in the past month, chicken nuggets and French fries, every single night, because Mr. Ridgemont doesn't cook, and he wouldn't allow me to prepare actual meals because it was outside my job description." She handed everything to the bailiff, stack after stack of documentation. "That little girl," Dorothy said, and now her voice wavered, "cries herself to sleep every night asking for her mother. Mr. Ridgemont told me if I ever contacted Miss Chen, I'd make sure I never worked in Seattle again. He has connections, he's powerful, and he's using this court to take away the one person that child actually needs." Dorothy looked at Rebecca. "I should have come forward sooner. I'm sorry I didn't." Patrick Westfield was shuffling papers frantically. "Your Honor, we need time to review these allegations." "You'll have time after I hear from Miss Chen."
Sarah Ortiz stood. "Your Honor, may we approach?" At the bench, away from the microphones, Sarah spoke quickly. "My client needs to share something she hasn't told anyone." Judge Reeves looked at Rebecca, really looked. "Miss Chen?" Rebecca's voice was barely audible. "May I show you something?" The judge nodded. Rebecca reached into her purse, thrift store, duct tape holding the strap together, and pulled out a small Ziploc bag. Inside was a notebook, child-sized, purple cover, dinosaur stickers. "Lily gave this to me, the last night she stayed with me, before the temporary custody order." Her hand shook as she opened it. The pages were filled with crayon drawings, stick figures, a tall one labeled Mommy, a small one labeled Me. In every picture, they were holding hands. "She drew these in secret," Rebecca said, Jonathan told her she wasn't allowed to draw me anymore, said it was unhealthy attachment, so she drew them at night in her closet with a flashlight. Judge Reeves took the notebook, flipped through the pages slowly. One drawing showed two figures in a car, a speech bubble from the small figure, "I love you to Jupiter and back." That was their phrase, the thing Rebecca said every night, "I love you to Jupiter and back." Rebecca's voice broke. "I've been working 3 jobs, Your Honor. The pharmacy, night shifts cleaning offices downtown, weekend gig at a food bank which doesn't pay but feeds us. I've been sleeping 4 hours a night. I've been skipping meals so Lily could have seconds. I've been wearing the same 3 outfits for a year because every dollar I make goes to trying to prove I'm good enough." Tears ran down her face now. She didn't wipe them. "But I'm not good enough. Not by his standards. I can't afford the right zip code. I can't afford the right school. I can't afford to stop working long enough to volunteer in her classroom, or take her to violin lessons, or throw birthday parties with bounce houses and caterers." She looked at Jonathan. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "But I know her, Your Honor. I know that she's scared of thunderstorms but loves rain. I know she only eats pizza if the cheese doesn't touch the crust. I know she has a scar on her left knee from when she fell off the slide at Woodland Park, and I sat with her in the ER for 4 hours, even though I was supposed to be at work. I know her." Rebecca's voice dropped to a whisper. "And she knows I love her, even when she's at his house, even when he tells her I don't have time for her. She knows." Judge Reeves was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at the notebook again, the purple cover, the dinosaur stickers. "The child put stickers on this?" she asked. "She bought them with her allowance. Dinosaurs are her favorite. She told me they're brave, like me." Something in Judge Reeves's face shifted. Judge Reeves set the notebook down carefully, looked at Jonathan, then at his lawyer. "Mr. Westfield, I'm going to need you to explain something to me." The lawyer stood. "Yes, Your Honor?" "Your client presented himself as a concerned father seeking what's best for his child. You presented evidence of Ms. Chen's financial struggles as proof of unfitness." She tapped the stack of documents Dorothy had provided. "But nothing in your filing mentioned hidden cameras, emotional manipulation, locked doors." "Your Honor, those allegations are uncorroborated. They're recorded, Counselor. I just listened to your client mock a 6-year-old for missing her mother." Patrick Westfield's mouth opened, closed. Judge Reeves turned to Dorothy. "Ms. Brennan, how long were you employed by Mr. Ridgemont?" 7 months, Your Honor." "And in that time, how often did the child see her mother?" "Twice a month, for 4 hours each time, always supervised by Mr. Ridgemont's choosing." "And how did the child respond when her mother's visits ended?" Dorothy's voice was steady. "She would scream, every single time. Mr. Ridgemont would lock her in her room until she stopped." The gallery gasped, actually gasped. Judge Reeves looked at the social worker. "Did you know about this?" The social worker, young, overwhelmed, drowning in a caseload of 60 families, shook her head. "No, Your Honor. Mr. Ridgemont's home visits he presented very well." "I'm sure he did." Judge Reeves picked up the photograph of Rebecca crying in the parking lot, studied it, then set it down. "Miss Chen, you work 52 hours a week." "Yes, Your Honor." "3 jobs?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And yet you've never missed a visitation with your daughter?" "No, Your Honor, never." Judge Reeves looked at Jonathan. "Mr. Ridgemont, you work from home?" He nodded stiffly. "Flexible hours?" "Yes." "And yet you hired a nanny to care for your daughter full-time while you were in the house?" Silence. "Let me be clear," Judge Reeves said, and her voice carried the weight of 17 years on the bench. "This court does not measure fitness by income. It measures fitness by care, by presence, by love." She picked up Lily's notebook again, the purple cover, the dinosaur stickers. "A child who draws her mother in secret because she's been told not to? That's a child who knows exactly who loves her." Jonathan's lawyer started to object, but Judge Reeves held her hand.
I'm issuing an emergency modification of the custody order. Effective immediately, primary physical custody is returned to Rebecca Chen. Mr. Ridgemont will have supervised visitation pending a full investigation into the allegations presented today. Rebecca couldn't breathe. Furthermore, I'm ordering a forensic examination of all electronic devices in Mr. Ridgemont's home. If hidden cameras are found in private spaces, particularly those used by a minor child, the district attorney will be notified. Jonathan stood. Your Honor, this is... Sit down, Mr. Ridgemont. The judge's voice was ice. You manipulated this court. You used your resources to paint a loving mother as unfit while you were emotionally abusing your daughter. That ends today. She looked at Rebecca. Ms. Chen, you can pick up your daughter today. I'm issuing a temporary restraining order requiring Mr. Ridgemont to stay at least 500 feet away until further notice. The courtroom erupted, not in cheers, this wasn't a movie, but in murmurs, shocked whispers, the sound of justice rendered when no one expected it. Rebecca's legs gave out. Sarah Ortiz caught her. Dorothy Brennan walked over, handed her a tissue. Go get your baby, Dorothy said quietly.
Rebecca went to Jonathan's house with a police escort. Standard protocol for emergency custody changes. The door opened. Lily stood there in purple pajamas. 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, and she was in pajamas, and for 1 second she just stared. Then she screamed, "Mommy!" Rebecca fell to her knees, and Lily crashed into her, 6 years old and sobbing so hard she couldn't catch her breath. "I thought, Daddy said, you weren't—" "I'm here, baby, I'm here. I've got you." Lily pulled back just enough to look at her. Her face was streaked with tears, her nose running, her eyes desperate. "Can we go home? To our house?" Rebecca nodded, couldn't speak, just nodded. "The little house?" Lily asked, like she needed to be sure. "Yes, baby, the little house." Lily threw her arms around Rebecca's neck and held on like she'd never let go. From inside the house, Rebecca could hear Jonathan on the phone with his lawyer. She didn't care. She stood, lifting Lily with her, too big to carry comfortably, but Rebecca would carry her until her arms fell off if that's what it took. Dorothy Brennan appeared in the doorway with a backpack. "Her things," she said. Then she pressed something into Rebecca's hand, a folded check. "For groceries, don't argue with me." Rebecca looked down. $500. "Thank you," she whispered. Dorothy smiled. "Thank that little girl. She's the one who told me everything, asked me to help her mommy." Rebecca looked at Lily. "You did?" Lily nodded against her shoulder. "I told Dorothy you're the bravest person in the whole world, like dinosaurs." Rebecca's laugh came out as a sob. 3 weeks later, Jonathan Ridgemont's lawyer called requesting a meeting. They sat in a conference room in Sarah Ortiz's cramped office in Pioneer Square. Jonathan wouldn't look at Rebecca. His lawyer did the talking. "My client is prepared to agree to a custody arrangement that grants Ms. Chen primary physical custody. He's willing to contribute child support at the maximum statutory rate. He will not contest this in exchange for the withdrawal of criminal charges related to the surveillance equipment." Sarah looked at Rebecca. "It's your call." Rebecca looked at Jonathan, really looked at him. He'd lost weight. The suit didn't fit as well. There were circles under his eyes. "I want you to see her," Rebecca said quietly. "She's your daughter too, but supervised, and you need therapy." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "Not for me, for her, because she still loves you, and I won't let you poison that." He finally met her eyes. For just a second, she saw something that might have been shame. "Okay," he said. The investigation found cameras in 14 locations. Jonathan was charged with voyeurism. He pleaded guilty, received probation, mandatory counseling, and a permanent record that would follow him. His house on Capitol Hill sold 3 months later. Dorothy Brennan found a new family to work for, one that treated her with respect. She sent Lily a birthday card with a hand-drawn dinosaur. Rebecca kept working at Bartell's, but she cut her hours, applied for subsidized housing and got accepted, found a 2-bedroom apartment in Greenwood with a small yard where Lily could play. She kept the purple notebook in her nightstand.
On hard days, she'd flip through it and remember what Lily had told Dorothy. My mommy is brave.
The cold courtroom with its mahogany panels and judging silence, it's still there, still rendering verdicts, still measuring lives against each other. But Rebecca doesn't kneel there anymore. She stands in her little kitchen in Greenwood, making dinosaur-shaped pancakes while Lily does homework at their second-hand table. The apartment is small, the furniture doesn't match, the radiator still knocks. But there's laughter here, and purple drawings taped to every wall, and a mother who knows that being enough has nothing to do with money. Judge Reeves retired last year. In her exit interview with the Seattle Times, she said the case that stayed with her most was the one where a nanny had the courage to speak truth to power. She said it reminded her why she'd become a judge. To protect the people who couldn't protect themselves. To listen for the truth beneath the performance. To remember that love, real love, doesn't require a trust fund or a perfect house or the right zip code. It just requires showing up. Every single day. Even when you're tired, even when you're broke, even when the whole world seems designed to tell you you're not enough. Dorothy Brennan was right about one thing. Sometimes power isn't about who has the most money. Sometimes it's about who has the most courage. And sometimes, when the system is designed to silence you, all it takes is one person, a nanny with a recording, a judge willing to listen, a mother who refused to disappear, to flip the script entirely. Rebecca still takes the bus, still shops at Goodwill, still counts quarters. But Lily doesn't draw pictures in secret anymore. She draws them at the kitchen table, in broad daylight, with her mother sitting right beside her. And every single one still shows two figures holding hands. Because some things, the things that actually matter, don't require money at all. They just require being there. The question isn't whether you'd fight for your child. The question is, would you recognize the fight when it's disguised as paperwork and power suits and polished lies? Rebecca did, and so did Dorothy. And because of that, a little girl who loves dinosaurs gets to grow up knowing that bravery isn't about being the loudest or the richest or the most powerful. It's about showing up, even when the marble floor is cold, even when 47 people are watching, even when everything in the system tells you that you've already lost. Especially then.